Graham here, living the dream in April 2022. This episode is going to be a pure trip report, and it's a trip report on board Delta Airlines. I believe it's going to be an Airbus A319 or an A320 from here in Detroit, Michigan, down to Nashville in Tennessee. We're picking up this video where we left off in the last video, and that is en route to Detroit International Airport, and in specific the Delta Terminal, where Fiona and I were booked in Comfort Plus on board a Delta A319 down to Nashville in Tennessee. But to be absolutely honest guys, I didn't even know that I was booked in Comfort Plus. I had no idea even what Comfort Plus was until we boarded the aircraft. I just thought we were booked in regular economy class. So if you stick with me and stick with this video, I'll explain the differences when we get on board. But as we pulled up to the Delta Terminal this afternoon, Fiona and I were filled with excitement because this was our first ever trip to Nashville in Tennessee. Of course, the home of Music City, USA. So looking at Flight Radar 24, the journey between Detroit and Nashville was around 540 miles, and from takeoff to touchdown was around 1 hour and 10 minutes. But if we wanted to drive the 541 miles from the Delta Terminal here in Detroit to downtown Nashville in Tennessee, it was going to take us somewhere between 7.5 and 8 hours. So flying was without a doubt the quickest option. So a massive thank you to Denise for taking the time to show us downtown Detroit last night, and of course Rochester earlier this morning. And if you want to see what Fiona and I get up to in Detroit and of course Rochester, go back to the previous video. Anyway, back to today and our trip report. As we entered the Delta Terminal here at Detroit, I was really quite amazed how quiet the terminal was for a Saturday afternoon. Just look at the empty check-in desks and the lack of queuing passengers, but that didn't deter Fiona and I to head directly to one of the kiosks to self-check-in, which to be honest was a fairly straightforward and pain-free process. Well, for me anyway, at the end of the day, I was the cameraman, so I was just watching what Fiona was doing. With our boarding passes printed and baggage labels stuck to our cases, it was time to head to the Delta bag drop. And at this point, it's probably a good idea to remind you that we were travelling at the end of April week 1 in 2022, so mask wearing was still federally mandated across the USA. My personal view at this point in the pandemic, it was a little bit ridiculous. But I know that Delta, along with the other mainline US airline, had been lobbying Congress to have the mask mandate removed before mid-May 2022 when the current legislation was due to lapse. Anyway, no matter our opinions on the topic, Fiona and I were wearing masks like all of the other passengers in the Detroit terminal today, and we would be wearing masks until we exited the terminal at Nashville. So with their bags on their way to Nashville already, Fiona and I were heading in the direction of TSA, which is something I'm simply not going to video for many reasons. So jumping forward an hour after having a very nice lunch at the Delta Terminal at Detroit, we were at the gate ready to board our aircraft down to Nashville. And the first benefit of travelling Comfort Plus means you get to board the aircraft before the main economy cabin. Delta board passengers requiring assistance and extra time first, followed by US military and veteran, then domestic first class, and finally for us, Comfort Plus. And one of the reasons I like to board an aircraft fairly promptly is so that there's plenty of overhead luggage space available for our carry-ons. So sitting comfortably, Fiona and I were ready for our short domestic flight down to Nashville, Tennessee. The legroom, of course, was pretty good for Comfort Plus and economy. And just look guys at the seat back televisions. This short domestic flight was going to have in-flight entertainment, something you'd certainly not see in any of the mainstream European airlines. So as you can hear, I'm pretty impressed by this Delta domestic service so far, but as you can see, we're now pushing back for a short taxi to the runway. And as we climbed through the initial cloud layer, Fiona and I settled down to enjoy our short flight down to Nashville. Fiona took advantage of the free earphones handed out by the really nice Delta cabin crew, and she watched some TV as I concentrated on what was happening outside the aircraft. We were served coffee and a snack. I even think Fiona had a bottle of red wine. Again, something you certainly wouldn't find down the back of a European domestic airline. And it wasn't long until we were on our descent into Nashville.
Pleasure to welcome you to Nashville, where the local time is 4:16. Please stay seated with your seatbelt securely fastened. Remember the seatbelt sign is on. And the captions turned off the seatbelt sign. Be careful when opening overhead bins to avoid injuries and items and messages during flight. In the next few hours, we plan to use an email survey from Delta. We do welcome and value your feedback, and we use your responses to continually improve your travel experience. We invite you to download the Fly Delta app for all your future travel needs, including checking in for a flight, managing your SkyMiles account. As you deplane, please remember to take a quick look around your seat and make sure you have everything you brought on board. On behalf of Delta and this Boston and New York City-based group, we've enjoyed having you on board. We look forward to seeing you soon. Have a wonderful afternoon here in Nashville or wherever your travel can take you.
So how would I sum up this short-haul domestic Delta service within the United States? Well, I have to say, I was really impressed. The service that you get, even back here in economy, far outstrips the pretty rubbish domestic service you would get on board British Airways in the United Kingdom on a domestic flight. And the last time I flew domestic here in the United States was back at the end of 2019 when I flew American Airlines from Sacramento down to Phoenix, Arizona. And from my memories of that service on board American Airlines in domestic economy, this was miles better. So as Fiona and I deplaned the aircraft here at Nashville, we were both very impressed with Delta's domestic service this afternoon. And as we headed towards baggage reclaim and the carousel, we realised that Nashville Airport was going through quite a bit of expansion. So the local economy in the Tennessee capital was clearly doing very well. And as soon as we got our bags, we would be booking an Uber into downtown Nashville, which arrived promptly and soon had Fiona and I en route to our Airbnb. And this is where I'm going to bring this trip report on board Delta in Comfort Plus from Detroit down to Nashville to a close. So in the next video, join Fiona and I as we enjoy the sights and most importantly the sounds of Nashville, Tennessee. And you know what to do if you want to continue to follow our two-step, two-state mini-series. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button and press the bell icon to be notified when our next video is published. And until that next video, thank you very much for watching.